What you want in an accountant is someone who doesn't act like an accountant. I don't know if you find this, that you speak in different languages and past each other all the time. So Hugh literally speaks your language and he speaks pharmacy language. Him and his team specialise in pharmacy. So, but not, also again, when you go into an accounting firm, often you'll get the lead who might know pharmacy, but no one else in the business does. So if she's away, but the whole firm wraps around pharmacy and knows it inside out. They get referrals or references, testimonials from pharmacy clients, not just from general, that Hugh's proactive, he's always looking for different angles, knows their business inside out, and brings a different perspective. But the one comment that I loved the most was that it was a client who said, "I feel the love again." Who says that about an accountant? Brilliant. Please welcome Hugh. It's going to come this morning. There'll be a chance for questions at the end as well. Watch that laptop before.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Hugh. I'm the Director of Oak Park Chartered Accountants. We specialise in pharmacy, if you didn't already know that. Right, I spoke here a year ago, and now we're another whole year of COVID under our belts. It has been tough, hasn't it? It's actually been tough for my and two staff. Losses haven't just been in pharmacy, they've been right across the board, so you're all toughed it out. What I wanted to do today is bring some advice, some suggestions, some ideas on things like staffing and business generally, and a bit on buying and selling, because that's quite topical what's happened there. So it'll be a sort of a lolly scramble of thoughts, suggestions, ideas that I hope everyone can take at least one or two things away. Some of this I'll be preaching to the converted, but I hope there's something that you didn't know and that you can benefit from. Staffing. So if I was to go around the room and ask you one by one, how are you, and you were to be honest, there's every chance you'll say, I'm tired, and staffing has been difficult. If you'd ask me, that's probably what I'd say. Staffing's been difficult. Maybe staffing's been a nightmare. Maybe staffing's been hell. I've heard all those three from pharmacy clients in the last, well, not just pharmacy, hospitality, in the last year and a half. So there's lots of uncontrollables. You can't manage uncontrollables, right? So the pandemic, uncontrollable, closed borders, the same. Pregnancies, sick staff with sick kids, DHB's nicking your staff, discounters nicking your staff. Staff just had enough and leaving the industry. That is really sad, and I spoke to that in my video in August. So there's a lot of stress. It's not a surprise if people want out. So there's lots you can't control, but let's have a look at some things you can control. Because things you can control is what we should focus on. Remember, it's a lot easier to keep someone than to replace someone. So let's look at retaining people. So some suggestions on that. Be a good woman boss, even if you're a bloke. So I said to if I had time, I was going to say to my lady putting this together, can you find a picture of a cross-dressing pharmacist, and I'll stick it up here. And then on a Saturday morning, that'll get people laughing, but we didn't have time for that. Women and bosses are generally better at empathising and picking up what people are feeling. And it's important at the moment for attention. If you can have a good feel for where your staff members are at, it's kind of emotional. People just don't offer this stuff up, do they? You have the best chance of doing something about it before they resign. And I have seen this fail in a pharmacy. I've got a lot of pharmacies, and it was a bloke, boss, just ploughing on with the business, and I totally get that. With your blinkers on a bit, fingers crossed behind your back, just getting the scripts out the door. Phew, we got them out again, and forgetting about your people. That's never been a more dangerous thing to do than it is now. So if you're not good at picking up the signals of how people are feeling, one, you're probably a bloke. Like that was an actual client. I thought, oh no, does he realise? And then lost 2 managers because he just didn't pick it up. Ask a senior staff member if that's not you, someone. I've done that before. a senior lady person, I was a lady staff member, and I said, you picking anything up? How's it going? How's the stuff? And it's just helps you. However you do it, give priority to connecting better. From some of the chats yesterday, some of you are doing an awesome job of connecting well anyway. And that way you identify problems earlier and you can fix them before the resignation stage. Get in before is better than trying to fix it afterwards. It could be bringing forward the holiday they really need, or cutting their hours for a bit, just to help with something at home, giving them some training, or dealing with another staff member that's causing them grief. I'll come to that in a minute. Identify talent. So all these things I'm suggesting are things I've seen happen in a pharmacy. Either they got it right or they got it wrong. Identify talent. This is one where they got it right. Staff don't easily leave a job they love doing. So if you keep your eyes open for talent and passion in people, talk to them if that's what you do. And some of you, I heard yesterday, talk often, that's great. And possibly fit them better to a role they love to do. One of our pharmacy clients was looking like losing their senior pharmacist. He was getting offers left, right and centre, and I thought they'd lose him. But they recognised that he had a passion for business development, untested, untried, so it was kind of a punt. But they built it into his contract, and they gave him a pay rise in the hope that he'd actually be any good at business development. Sure enough, he is good at business development. He has loved doing business development, and he was probably locked in. And that was locked in just because they spotted talent and tried to fit him a bit better to where he had a passion. Passionate people are happy people. They don't leave a good place. This is probably the situation where I've seen people the most sticky in a business. They're not leaving. People are less likely to leave a job when their workmates are their friends and they really like working together. They help and encourage each other. Now, building a special team like that has almost everything to do, I think, with good recruiting. In fact, not good recruiting, very purposeful, targeted, deliberate, excellent recruiting. And that's hard to do right now, I know, because just recruiting anybody is a challenge. But I'm thinking a year, 2 out. I managed to achieve this myself for 6 years, and I remember thinking at one stage, these people are so happy. I think they're happier at work than they are at home. They just love each other's company. Unless one of them dies or leaves town, I think I've got them forever. And I was loving it because everyone had a familiarity with each other and just loved working together. So that's hiring mature people. That's the bottom line. Good people, fun people. And you have the chance to build an environment that's quite rare, I think, but it's definitely doable. You just have to, at the moment it's hard to recruit, but you can aim at that and you can enhance your chances of retention. Dealing with problem staff, so this is again something I've seen done wrong more than done right in the last year and a half. If you've got a problem staff member in your team, making it unpleasant for your other staff, you've got to deal with that, particularly at times like now. I've talked with a small number of pharmacy clients who have lost staff in the last year because of a bad egg, a bad hire. They didn't know when they hired them. Someone else in the staff, sometimes it's a manager level person, and they upset people and ruffle their feathers, and then people go, and you lose a good tech, and you lose a pharmacist. You can't have that. I mean, that's maybe recoverable at normal times, it's not right now. It just makes things very, very hard. So no one likes dealing with those things, but you've got to nip them in the bud, particularly at times like we are now. So dollars. Now, I don't know how this sits with you, but think sustainably. Sustainability, don't think profitability. Yeah, I'm an accountant, and I'm saying don't think profitability. Sustainability actually is profitability, because if you can't sustain it, you can't make any money. Hourly rates are up on 2 years ago. I was practicing this and then I thought, shoot, I better be careful what I say. I don't know how many staff are in the room, but they're up. I think 10 to 15%. If you were paying technicians $26 2 years ago, you need to be up towards 30. whether you're aware of that's where the market is or not. And I'm not going to go into actually what pharmacists are, because there might be pharmacy staff here and I don't want to cause problems with the boss of the staff member here, but you can come and see me. You probably know already, but everything's up. Don't think about how much extra it's costing you to pay the market. The market's the market. You don't tell the market what to do, the market tells you what to do, the market's boss, okay? Don't worry about how much extra it's costing you. Yes, it does eat into your profits. Think instead about how much it's going to cost you to pay their replacement, probably $3, $4 more than what you were going to put this person up to. Think of the stress of the gap when you lost them and then, oh God, it took me 2 months to replace them. That stress is another cost, and in that time you could build up stress that causes someone else to leave. So don't worry about cost. Rates are up. Retention bonuses. Golden handcuffs, so that's to try and preempt and lock people in. Either as a replacement for a pay rise or to accompany a pay rise, consider a retention bonus. They're particularly appropriate at times like now, when there's a low supply and a high demand. Do a risk assessment of your staff. Who would you most hate to leave? Who could you least afford to leave? And work your way down the list. The benefit of a retention bonus over a pay rise is a one-off. The hourly rate stays the same. You might say a $3,000 or $5,000 bonus. If you haven't resigned 4 months from now, 6 months from now, whatever you think's appropriate, but don't count pennies too much, because the pennies matter at the moment. Yeah, there's a variation of their contract, so you've got to get that agreed in writing. You might want to build in there a confidentiality statement in that clause that you get them to sign. I think, I haven't heard it done, but a retention bonus if a discount is coming to town. So if a discount is moving into town or moving right next door, because that happens, doesn't it? You can preempt the poaching of your staff, where you can think about this, by offering a financial incentive to stay and lock it in for 6 months. You know, no one enjoys having to pay all this money out, but this is not about pharmacy, this is about business. Sometimes you have got to fight in business, and this is about fighting to hold on to what's yours. It is not about pharmacy. Have a chat to Clive Cannon, who's not here this morning, but about fighting to stop someone taking what you've worked really hard for. Again, the focus is on sustaining your business through a hard time, not on profitability. Your business will be fine. You know, it's a rare pharmacy I've seen that's not inherently profitable, or can be with a tweak here or there. But your business may not be sustainable if you lose 1 or 2 more. All right. Reducing hours. I know some people have done that. I know Anna, you've tried it. Consider closing at lunch. Opening later, reducing your weekend hours. I know it might be in breach of your contract. My advice is front foot that. Think of like your landlord. You wouldn't just pay your rent if you had a cash flow shortage. You bring them up or whatever. Have a coffee with your portfolio manager. Explain to them your situation, what you're doing, why, and how vital it is that you sustain your staffing. They're bureaucrats, okay? The world needs bureaucrats too, but they need the stuff explained. They might seem a bit cold sometimes, but explain it to them, and I think it will probably go well. Locum rates are up. It's actually about time. It never made sense that a locum rate was only like $5 more than a wage rate. The market generally, it's another 50% for a contractor. So rates are 65 to 70 an hour in areas I've heard of, occasionally less, but they're in that. I've heard of more. Again, supply and demand, don't worry about it. Chill on that. It's about sustainability right now than profitability. This time will pass, and then it's back about profitability. If you desperately need a break, that break is really important. So spend some cash and get it. Pay them what they're charging within reason. If it's 100 plus, that's starting to get a bit greedy. Staff up. Now, don't throw things at me if you're still not staffed up. I don't know where everyone's at. If you can, err on the side of staffing a bit more, rather than less, if you can, or if you can in the next year or two. It'll lower the stress in your pharmacy. It'll give you a buffer when there's sickness or someone leaves. Crucially, it means you're resourced to do your vaccinations, do your antivirals. They're good earners. They're maybe not big in volume, some of them at the moment, but you want to be in that game as part of your strategy. You won't lose money with that extra staffing, as long as it's not ridiculous, because you can utilise that extra staffing to take advantage of good paying services. It is a win-win. It could mean that you can get out on the floor and sell stuff, because I've heard that the average sale for a white coat pharmacist is nearly double a retail person, and I totally get that. So being slightly overstaffed, it sounds wrong, doesn't it? It helps you do that. Emphasis on technicians. There's a lot of talk about shortage of pharmacists, and it's real. Discounters taking them, students choosing to, this is very sad actually, choosing to not study. I think I'll be a physiotherapist instead, because that's long term, those sort of decisions. But I have pharmacy clients that are shifting their emphasis with how they staff more to technicians, less away from heaps of pharmacists in the dispensary. That they're cheaper. I mean, the economics of it, they're cheaper. You can pay them well, like towards the top of the bracket in the market, but it's nowhere near what you pay a pharmacist. And as I understand it, you don't lose technicians so readily, and you don't have some of the other things that are going on. So there is the thing about passion too. If you've got a retail person who would love to be a technician, I'm sure you're doing that sort of thing already, but you connect that person with what they'd love to do, train them as a technician, you're solving their problem, you're solving yours as well. The counting robot. So from pharmacists I've spoken to, this is a no-brainer. A 30 canister Cretum counting robot costs you 30 grand. I spoke to him yesterday, and he tried to design them so they take up less space, because they do take space, so that's tricky in a small dispensary. It's about, I'm told it's about like a third to a half of a technician. Depends on the size of your dispensing team. Someone said to me yesterday 2/3 of a technician. It's good at times like this, but it's good at any time. Because you pay the 30 grand once, and when it's paid off, it's free staffing. It doesn't need holidays, it doesn't get sick. Which is probably its biggest selling point right now. So those are my suggestions about staffing. There is actually a lot you can control, even though it feels like it's out of control and has been for 2 years. There's a lot you can control.